And aviation expert Jay Ratliff joins us now. Sir, could you give us your top-line assessment so far?
Well, I mean, obviously, Dana, a lot of questions to be answered here, and we will get the answers from the National Transportation Safety Board. They're the all-star team. They're the reason that we've had the safest era ever of commercial jet travel, going back to the last accident we had here in the United States 16 years ago in Buffalo with the Colgan Air crash. There's a lot of questions that we have, and Bill, you'd asked about the TCAS system, the traffic collision avoidance system, that does disengage at 1,000 feet. So since this impact took place under 1,000 feet, the flight crew would not have had the benefit of the traffic collision avoidance system alerting them of the fact that there was an aircraft that was in the same airspace. Of course, one of the things I'm looking at is the communication that took place between air traffic control and the military aircraft, as well as the American Airlines flight. The timing is something that I'm very curious at as the investigation moves forward, as far as the first time that the military aircraft was contacted by air traffic control. There seemed to be a very narrow window there between a question being asked, the answer coming back, and then evasive maneuver as far as advice command after that. It seemed to be a little bit more of an urgent situation there. But again, we're looking at a snapshot, not the entire thing. We're going to hopefully honor the lives of those that were lost by making sure that we learn everything, and the NTSB through their thorough investigation will. And we honor the lives of those that were lost so tragically by learning from this and then doing everything humanly possible to prevent anything like this from ever happening again. Because to have two aircraft occupying the same airspace on a clear night never should happen.
Yeah, Jay, question on that. If the American Airlines flight was coming in for a landing and it was at an altitude of roughly 400 feet, it's going to be on the ground within 30 seconds.
Yes.
Do helicopters in that airspace, are they assigned a certain altitude at that location?
You know, it's my understanding, and Bill, I may be a little bit off here, that they're limited to somewhere around 200 to 300 feet as far as an altitude. Of course, that corridor there, the visual corridor that the helicopters use constantly through there, is a pretty standard, corridor that's used. So I'm anxious to see what altitude that aircraft was at. But again, 500 feet and below is the critical component or critical time for any flight crew on takeoff or landing. So you've got an American Airlines flight crew that are looking at instrumentation, they're looking at their airspeed, they're going through everything moments before landing. So the last thing that they have time to do is to start glancing out the window to see if there's any air traffic in the area. You're really depending on air traffic control at that point to make sure that airspace is sterile, is clean, is free of anything that might prevent some sort of an element of danger. So I'm not trying to point it at air traffic control because, again, it would be asinine at this point to try to draw any conclusions, because this investigation is going to go somewhere between 8 and 12 months. And the National Transportation Safety Board, those men and women are all stars. They will uncover everything and then provide the recommendations for future improvements to the Federal Aviation Administration. And then it'll be up to the FAA to decide how many of those to implement. But we will certainly find out what happened here.
I think that is one of the confusing parts, right, for people. When you had Sean Duffy, the newly confirmed Secretary of Transportation, come out yesterday and explain that it was standard. It was not unusual to have a airliner coming in to land at that time, not unusual to have a training flight. But clearly, Jay, something went wrong. And I think that's what you're saying, is that let's wait, be smart about it, be wise, and try to pinpoint that exact moment where something went wrong.
Yeah, we have to. Anytime that you have an accident investigation, you don't know if there was a mechanical situation that took place on either aircraft moments before the impact. There could have been something that happened that could have impaired the crew's ability to respond. You could have had a crew member with a medical episode moments before. You just don't know until the investigation is concluded as far as what's taking place. And obviously, that's what the NTSB is going to do. And I've got the full utmost confidence that that group is going to do a very thorough job. And again, honor the lives of those that were so tragically lost. It shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, Jay, when we were listening to the congressman from Tennessee, Mark Green, describe what you would see from another aircraft at that time of night under those conditions, it's well illuminated. Just to paraphrase him, he said it's hard to miss. And just to match some of, well, try and draft a little bit off of what Jennifer Griffin was reporting for the Pentagon. Reuters has this quote up now from the brand new Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, who says this helicopter was on an annual proficiency training flight by fairly experienced crew, in quotes, with night vision goggles. I don't know if you have experience with this, Jay, but if you're wearing night vision goggles, how does your environment change when you're getting that close to another aircraft at that low of an altitude?
Well, the night vision can actually enhance a lot of what's already there. And keep in mind, you're talking about a very densely populated area. There's a lot of lights. There's a lot of things that would compete for a pilot's attention. And the ultimate responsibility when you're flying visual flight rules falls on the VFR crew to make sure that they visually have ample airspace between them and any other aircraft in the area. So it's incumbent upon them to constantly be making sure that there's no other aircraft anywhere near them. And in that panoramic cockpit that you have on the Black Hawk, you can see a lot of different areas from one peripheral vision side to the other. So the thought process is here, could there have been something that distracted them? Could they simply not have seen it? It's possible they could have been confused. And that's one of the other reasons that we rely on air traffic control as we do, because they're there to help mitigate or reduce as much as possible the human element, the human factor, the human error that sometimes takes place in commercial aviation accidents. Because when you look at that, typically there's a series of things that go wrong, and a component of that tends to be human error. And if that's the case of what took place here, you know, what can we do to try to prevent that in the future?
Sure.
So,
Jay,
again,
listen, I just want to jump in here, because, Frank, there's a lot we don't know, and we're just trying to take it a piece at a time, but really appreciate your insight. Jay Ratliff, aviation expert. We'll call on you again very shortly.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.